Welcome back to the Sunday Scripture Podcast. It was an awesome break to relax during the week. Nothing to do on Tuesday night, nothing to do on Wednesday night, but it's awesome to be back. Brad, how are you?
I don't know that it's like been nothing to do on Tuesday and Wednesday. I think I've pretty much filled my calendar during our time off and any time I
Yeah.
haven't been away. But it is really good to be back.
You are in an entirely different room, which is in an entirely different house in a different community. And you're starting in on your setup here, which I respect. Why are you in a different house, in a different room, in a different community?
So appointment season this year. Megan, my wife, was appointed as the Spartanburg District Superintendent. And so she actually just had her installation service this past weekend. It was a great day to celebrate, which also meant that we had to move out of Bethel's parsonage and into the district parsonage. And so that move took place about a month ago, a little over a month ago. And then we had been on vacation and on a mission trip and everywhere in between. She actually had to go to DS boot camp one of those weeks as well. And so we've been putting things together, buying furniture, all the fun stuff that you have to do. And this is probably the fourth room that I was like committed to after my bedroom and the living room and the kitchen. I was
Mhm.
like, I gotta have my space to podcast and to do my Zoom Bible study. So like I worked hard. I'm sharing this space. This is also going to be the gaming space for my son. And so in the blank bookshelf, you will probably see some stuff in the future, but right now, this is my dominated space. And so got my jersey on the wall and a picture of Fenway Park and all of our bobbleheads and Spartan burgers and everything else. So yeah, I worked hard on trying to get ready.
I love that. And of course, I had the Cubs over my shoulder and the Greenville Drive. So we got some likenesses. We're both into Villa, but a little bit of a rivalry down I-29, but down Highway 29 between the Spartanburgers and the Drive. Started off great with the new superintendent. I got the email about the meeting Sunday, and I did put it in my calendar. I looked at it during the workday. I did not look at the instructions, so I was in the back of the room, but I was in the room, so grateful for that. All right, we are, a lot has happened in Acts since we talked, and I was talking about this with church members today. I have preached on Acts for like 10 weeks, 11 weeks, and that is a direct result of you picking Acts first in the Bible draft. And I thought, I love that, and I'm gonna walk through it. And even though I've read this book, I've listened to this book, there's nothing like pausing and reading these stories and connecting them all. And I'm absolutely Team Acts and agree with you with the first round draft pick. I'm just gonna say that.
I mean, that's probably your most controversial take of the night because there's probably people who are like, nope, it's still not the right pick. So if
Yeah.
I had to do it all over again, I think I'm going Luke.
Yeah.
But anyways, Axe
Where,
is still a pretty close second.
if you're guaranteed a gospel, you can go somewhere else.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
and here this fall, we're going to have a draft, biblical characters, no rules, no structure, more people, and we'll just throw down. We'll see who can come up with what. Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Unleavened Bread. Unleavened bread is mentioned in our scripture passage because in the major cities, they are celebrating the festival of unleavened bread. And what are we talking about with that? Let's go back to the original celebration of the unleavened bread. It wasn't really a celebration. It was a frightened bolt from Egypt. Why are we not putting any ingredients in the bread, Brad? And why are we bolting?
Specifically, we're not putting anything in there that's going to cause the bread to rise because that takes time. Anybody who bakes would know that when you are looking to make bread, that you've got to put some yeast in there and you've got to let it grow a little bit. Megan loves to bake and make bread and to make like pita bread for us when we do Mediterranean night. She makes pizza dough. Is really good at making pizza dough. And so she's got to do that for like 30 to 45 minutes, maybe even let it sit and rest for an hour. The Israelites did not have that time. Pharaoh was ready to kill them and to put them to death, and was very angry. The angel of the Lord came and did the 10th plague that we find in Exodus, and the people had to flee very quickly. And so they didn't have time to let the bread rise, and so it became the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, or Passover.
How do you make it? 2 cups all-purpose flour, 3 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and 1 teaspoon of salt, according to Google. I'm not sure if that's exactly how they made it, but that is one way to make it. And what we're doing is celebrating the fact that we were liberated, but recognizing that we were in a hurry and it was a desperate situation. What's another layer of unleavened bread? That's what was being celebrated when Jesus is coming through town, and when there's great pain and angst and judgment. So it's coming around again in Acts 12, and that is a layer in the final story of this section that we've been in for a number of weeks. I haven't been podcasts all these weeks, but I've posted sermons to Spotify and YouTube. Why is the slide green for this section? Because it corresponds with the green section in the book of Acts in the complete Bible structure that I've put together. I put this link in the show notes of every podcast so that you can go and look at it. You want to make sure and put the magnification on 50%, or else you'll never be able to read it. You can look here and see what's the big idea of this book. What are the sections of this book? The first section, second section, third section that we're now in, about to move into the fourth one. And so this is the Jesus community becomes an international movement. Brad, what do I want you to hear? What do I want the listeners to hear going into this first section? King Herod is harassing the church. Where have we heard that before? An original disciple is killed. Death is everywhere in this text. Festival of Unleavened Bread that we mentioned before. Soldiers are guarding an entrance in prison and death. Where have we heard that before? And a visit from an angel. Acts chapter 12, verse 1. About that time, King Herod began to harass some who belonged to the church. He had James, John's brother, killed with a sword. When he saw that this pleased the Jews, he arrested Peter as well. This happened during the festival of unleavened bread. He put Peter in prison, handing him over to 4 squads of soldiers, 16 in all, who guarded him. He planned to charge him publicly after the Passover. While Peter was held in prison, the church offered earnest prayer to God for him. The night before Herod was going to bring Peter's case forward, Peter was deep asleep between 2 soldiers and bound with 2 chains, with soldiers guarding the prison entrance. Suddenly, an angel from the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the prison cell. After nudging Peter on his side to awaken him, the angel raised him up and said, "Quick, get up." The chains fell from his wrists. The angel continued, "Get dressed, put on your sandals." Peter did as he was told. The angel said, "Put on your coat and follow me." What do you notice about what we read and the options that I mentioned? Would you add any, Brad?
I mean, I think it's probably more significant that the number of soldiers that were guarding Peter and the way in which he was chained. Because while the text tells us that he was chained with 2 chains, which made me chuckle.
Right.
What typically happened with inmates, with prisoners, is that their right hand was chained to a soldier's left hand. Now, why is that significant? Well, almost everybody back then was considered right-handed, and the left hand was your weaker hand. So you put the weaker hand of the soldier into the stronger hand of the inmate, so that the stronger hand of the soldier could still hold their sword. And they could still be able to. This text tells us that both of Peter's hands were chained, which is sort of excessive because Peter has shown no form of violence in anything that we've read thus far. And so, what gives with that? Why was he dangerous?
Fair to say they've broken out of prison before in this book.
Potentially, yeah. That he's a slippery fellow.
Yeah, it's like there's an earthquake in the we're able to break out of here, but if you put 2 chains on him, that'll cover it.
That'll cover it.
Yeah.
The other part that I found interesting was that, and I don't know that I've ever noticed this before, but like the angel had to nudge him to wake him up. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't enough that there was because I think it says there's a blinding light. Keep going down to the next slide. When the angel of the Lord, suddenly an angel appeared and a light shone in the prison cell. All of a sudden there's light.
Yeah.
Peter, who's in prison, not in a comfortable place for most people, is so sound asleep that the angel has to wake him up.
Yeah.
I think there's some, what I would say about that is that there's some confidence that Peter has that he's going to be okay.
Regardless. I'm curious about that because if you watch like a Law and Order or something, they say, look, put him in prison. The guy that sleeps, he's caught, and he's fine. If being subversive to the politics and the king and being celebrating who Jesus was is the crime, my man's going to sleep in prison because he's confident in who he is and what he does.
Yeah. And he's gotten out before.
Yeah. What about Peter did as he was told? Last week he argued 3 times.
Yeah.
He had to be convinced. Peter did not have to be convinced. He's like, yeah, man, good, cool.
Yeah. Could you make the case that Peter's learning?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, he's been through some stuff by this point. Doubts, questions.
Yes.
And even still, after all of this, Peter is still not perfect.
Is there anything to being between 2 soldiers and Jesus being between 2 prisoners?
That's a good observation.
There's just so many layers and echoes to the Gospels.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and you got to remember that, Luke's gospel, Luke, we believe, was the same writer of Luke's gospel that wrote Acts. And so Luke's gospel is the gospel that is Jesus between the 2 and says to the one, today you'll be with me in paradise. So there is some significance between the 2. I think that more than else, just being between 2 soldiers demonstrates the fact that he was chained up in both hands.
Yes.
That it wasn't just the standard usual practice of being held. We talked before about Herod. Go through what Herod this is, because we hear about King Herod.
So we got 3. I got 3 at a minimum. I'm going to see what you say. Herod the Great, Matthew 2, the ruler who ordered the slaughter of the infants in Bethlehem around the time of Jesus' birth. He died shortly after. You'll see an order for a mass death later, I'm almost certain. Herod Antipas, Matthew 14 and Luke 23, the son of Herod the Great. He ruled as a tetrarch over Galilee and Perea, and John the Baptist beheaded and questioned Jesus during his trial. He had a new wife. John the Baptist didn't approve of it, told him about it. The wife said he's got to go. Her daughter danced. King said, I'll give you anything you want. I want. And the mom whispers, said, I want the head of John the Baptist. That's Herod Antipas. And then Herod Agrippa is who we're talking about today, Acts 12, the grandson of Herod the Great. And he's the King Herod who persecuted the early church and executed early leaders of the way. Of course, when we hear the way, it's a reference to Saul chasing anybody that had anything to do with what Jesus was doing. So one, how many more Herods are we talking about, or are we sticking with these three?
Well, I mean, there was some others that went by the name Herod. The first wife of Herodias, you referenced the one that Herod Antipas. Her first wife was actually Herod Philip. And then there was another Herod Philip II. And so he founded Caesarea Philippi. So there were multiple Herods. I think the craziest part that with all of this is that when we talked about the Herod in our story for today being Herod Agrippa, being the grandson of Herod the Great, Herod Antipas was not his father. His father's name was Aristobulus, and Aristobulus was actually killed by Herod the Great. Herod the
Mercy.
Great killed one of his sons because of how crazy he was, because of how maniacal and power hungry and fearful he was. I mean, when you read about the fact that like he slaughtered innocent children, he slaughtered his own kin because he was afraid they were after his power. And so he was a mad individual. But before Aristobulus was killed, he had a son, and his son was called Herod Agrippa. And that's the Herod that we find today in this passage from Acts 12.
And at least in this section, not obsessed with his own power and authority. The crowd thought it was cool when he killed a disciple. So a guy that's been there the entire time, walked with Jesus everywhere he went. Agrippa kills him, realizes the crowd loves it. I was looking through the three Herods, the great Antipas and Agrippa, and I was thinking, Antipas. And under a section, did you seriously Google that? Antipasto, an Italian word meaning before the meal, anti meaning before, and pasto meal or food. It refers to a traditional first course of an Italian meal. Herod Antipas, first century Roman client ruler of Galilee. His name is Antipas, a shortened contracted form of Greek name Antipater, meaning like his father. Any chance you were surprised by the fact that I Googled Antipasto?
There's no there. That is one of the least shocking things I've heard tonight. I'm also very, very cognizant of the fact that I think you have some tendencies to want to do a food podcast, and I am here for it. We've talked about bread. We've talked about pasta. I mean,
yeah,
let's just do it, man.
Deep irony that I'm talking about cooking it, not a cook. And I've heard there are people who are cooks and there are people who are bakers. Bakers are very specific about the details. Definitely not a baker as well. So next section. Building on what we talked about, that's still there. Now we got visions while in distress, knocking and entering, certainly been in the Gospels before, and also from the Gospels, woman running with good news that is not believed. Following the angel, Peter left the prison. However, he didn't realize the angel had actually done all this. He thought he was seeing a vision. They passed the first and second guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. It opened for them by itself. After leaving the prison, they proceeded the length of one street when abruptly the angel was gone. At that, Peter came to his senses and remarked, "Now I'm certain that the Lord sent his angel and rescued me from Herod and from everything the Jewish people expected." Realizing this, he made his way to Mary's house. Mary was John's mother. He was also known as Mark. I don't remember people's names. I would be hopeless. In the gospel story, I'd be hopeless. I'd be like, was it Mark? His name was John, or was it John? His name was Mark. I had no idea. Many believers had gathered there and were praying for Peter, right? When Peter knocked at the outer gate, a female servant named Rhoda went to answer. She was so overcome with joy when she recognized Peter's voice that she didn't open the gate. Instead, she ran back in and announced that Peter was standing at the gate. Lost your mind, they responded. She stuck by her story with such determination that they began to say, it must be his guardian angel. Meanwhile, Peter remained outside, knocking on the gate. They finally opened the gate and saw him there, and they were astounded. He gestured with his hand to quiet them down, then recounted how the Lord led him out of prison. He said, tell this to James and the brothers and sisters. Then he left for another place. I'm out. I made an appearance, knocked on the gate, and I'm out. What do you think of that section?
The fact that he knocks at the door, Rhoda answers, he identifies himself, and she runs away so excited, makes me so happy. It just makes me laugh. Like, that is such a hysterical scene. I mean, it is almost comical, the fact that like he finally wakes up from what he thinks is a dream. Mind you, he wakes up after the spirit of the Lord or angel leaves him. Like, the angel leaves and he's like, oh, that must have been an angel. It's like, whatever. You have to know that he's probably standing in that door going, y'all, I'm on the streets. You got to let me in. You got to let me in.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, she's like run off and is sticking to her story, not recognizing or not even acknowledging the fact that she needs to go let him in to finish this project of him being safe.
Yeah. And again, a woman is bearing the incredible news that someone we thought was dead was alive. Not died and resurrected, but we thought was dead and is in fact alive.
I mean, there was a really chance that Peter could have been put to death, right? Like, it had just happened. I think that's why Luke tells us the story previous, right? That he's put to death. The original disciples put to death, and then now we've got Peter, who, if he's killed the one, he's probably going to want to kill the next.
Yeah, previously, many weeks ago, I read about Stephen being chosen when they were trying to determine the distribution of food. Peter stands up to the authorities and says, y'all are punks, and this is why. And they bring him into jail, but let him go. Stephen's chosen. They immediately stone him. There is no, I might get out of this. They stone him. So any one of these guys have a very real chance of being killed in the very near future of any place where they are. Let me see. Guards are killed, and we have a royal party with one more death. This doesn't echo to me the gospel necessarily. It actually echoes the Game of Thrones. And Daryl the cat may make an appearance. We'll see. If I close the door, he'll scream like crazy. If I leave it open, he might come in. We'll see. The next morning, the soldiers were flustered about what had happened to Peter. Herod called for a thorough search. When Peter didn't turn up, Herod interrogated the guards and had them executed. Afterward, Herod left Judea in order to spend some time in Caesarea. Herod had been furious with the people of Tyre and Sidon for some time. They made a pact to approach him together, since their region depended on the king's realm for its food supply. They persuaded Blastus, the king's personal attendant, to join their cause, then appealed for an end to hostilities. On the scheduled day, Herod dressed himself in royal attire, seated himself on the throne, and gave a speech to the people. Those assembled kept shouting over and over, "This is God's voice, not the voice of a mere human." Immediately, an angel from the Lord struck Herod down because he didn't give the honor to God. He was eaten by worms and died. God's word continued to grow and increase. He gone, but the word's going to increase. Barnabas and Saul returned to Antioch from Jerusalem after completing their mission, bringing with them John, who was also known as Mark. Would you add any bullets to this, getting through that story, Brad?
I mean, No, those are good. Like, it's a
How
wild
about
story,
following the
man.
king is life and death? Because they're like, we need him for food, so maybe he's the greatest ever.
Yeah. I mean, this is um, a power game.
Yeah.
And so there's wrestling with power that takes place here. I was afraid you were going to ask me about like the worms and the the death, and I don't have an answer for that. That's a weird way to go, man. Like
Yeah.
just being struck down and then worms eating you. Like, did he have something ahead of time? I mean, how do you want to explain that away other than the fact that like most of the other Herods, the dude was just not following after God. And not only was he not, he was a blatant impediment to what God was trying to accomplish with these people. And like you said, he got to go.
What about the words of one of our favorites in one of our favorite movies? Doc Holliday said, "Poor soul, he was just too high strung." He
Yeah.
listen. I saw killing somebody please the crowd. If you want any food, you're going to be praising me. I'm going to ask you a question or two, and then I'm going to kill you because I'm tired of hearing your answers.
Yeah.
And I want my voice to be the voice of God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's quite a list. Um, any ties to? I guess yeah. We tie that back to unleavened bread. You're talking about a murderous Pharaoh who was the new Pharaoh that rose up that didn't remember the promise that the Egyptians had made, given how Joseph saved them from famine and desperate loss of food. He rose up, said, "I'm tired of the Israelites." Got murderous and hateful. People had to run. Murderous leaders exist from Egypt back then, thousands of years ago, all the way to Herod in this story, all the way to today. And their playbook hasn't really changed. I'm cool and no one else is, and I'd love you to tell me. And ultimately, it doesn't work out in the long term. So that's a wild story. It's another reason why Acts is great. I think a comparison of the Herods is potential for me. Oh, and one more thing, I haven't done this before with you. I'm curious about your opinion. When I start looking at hymns,
Mm.
I'm curious about hymns in the hymn book, in the section of Lent, things about the cross. When I survey the wondrous cross, I come to the garden alone, that isolation, and also playing on the terms of a king, crown him with many crowns. If you went 1, 2, 3, I'd pick this one first, this one second, this one third. Which one would you? What would your order be?
In relation to this story,
Yeah,
interesting. Probably the crown hymn with
you
many
lead off
crowns
with
would be
that.
number one. Yeah, I think so because you're looking at like the idea of power being questioned here. I mean, there's
Yeah,
some significant power plays that are happening. Um, I think I come to the garden, just really for the simple fact of the and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy that we share when I tarry there, none other has ever known. I mean, I think of like maybe that being what Peter feels like in that moment that he's being let out, and it's just him and the angel.
yeah,
Um, that could carry something for me. I I think the cross is at the end is was just the last of the three, but it's still present because of just what that means for us as followers of Jesus and what it meant for these men who, the cross took on that new meaning for them. I mean, it means
yeah,
something to us, but can you imagine what it means to Peter?
yeah, yeah. It's a good word, and it's always interesting to pick which one leads off what we do and which one closes what we do. So that's always a consideration as well. Well, listen, it's been a long day for you. It's been a long month for you to move into a new house. I'm excited about your new setup. I've got a new setup with a 60-inch TV, so I don't have to wear glasses. I can make the font on like 38-point font during the podcast. I'm grateful to be back. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you check out those hymns on YouTube. Look at the complete Bible structure. I'll put all that in the notes, and hope you have a great week. Join us again next time.